Okay, so today we're going to cover interquartile range. Interquartile range was discussed in my first presentation, my poster presentation, which is this one that's right here. As we can see through this presentation, we have our setup here. These was our set of numbers, and then we went ahead and did our median. Our median we discussed in our previous chapter, which is finding the middle number of the set. So our middle number in this set was 12. 12 was our quartile number 2. And then after we find our quartile number 2, we would go ahead and find our first and third quartile. So in total, we would have quartile 1, quartile 2, and lastly quartile 3. So after we find our median, we then find our first quartile. Our first quartile we would find by using our lower bound set. And our lower bound is everything before the median. Then we go ahead and find our upper bound quartile, which is everything after our median. So in this example right here that I did my presentation, I showed with one number, which was 12. But in today's presentation, I'm going to do an interquartile with two numbers as our median. So in today's example, I'm going to write right here, our set numbers are going to be 6, 13, 17, 22, 11, and 13. So these are just numbers that I randomly came up with. So after we find our set, we're going to rearrange our whole set to be from lowest to largest. So our smallest number would be 6. And then we go on and we see 11, 13, 13, 17, and 22. So this is how we're going to rearrange them after so that we can correctly find our quartile 1, 2, and 3. So now we would have to find our quartile 2, which is finding the median. Our quartile 2, we notice, is 13 and 13. So, like we discussed on how to do our median, we have to add our two numbers and divide it by 2 to get our final product to find our quartile number 2. So we're going to do 13 plus 13 over 2, which we see is 26 over 2, which as a result is 13. So I'm going to write down here quartile number 2 to be 13. So after we find our quartile number 2, then we find our quartile number 1 and 3. And like I discussed previously earlier on our presentation board 1, we're going to find it using our lower bound and our upper bound. So our lower bound, we see we have 6 and 11. So in this example, 11 is going to be our quartile number 1. So then that's our lower bound. Now in our upper bound, we have 17 and 22. So our quartile number 3 is going to be 17. After we find our quartiles, we're going to find our minimum and our maximum in the set. The minimum would be our smallest number in the set, and our maximum is going to be our biggest number in the set. So, our minimum is going to be 6 because that's our smallest. Our quartile 1 was 11, quartile 2 was 13, quartile 3 is 17, and our max is 22. So after we figure out all of our digits, we figure out everything that we need. This is all that we need as of right now. So now we're going to find our IQR, which is our interquartile range. So to find that, we're going to use our quartile 3 minus our quartile 1. So when we perform that, so I'm going to write quartile 3 minus quartile 1, which is 17 minus 11, which is equal to 6. Now with our number 6, we're going to multiply this number right here by 1.5. So we're going to do 1.5 times our 6. And as a result, we will see that it is 9. So 9 is now our result. After this, we're going to we're going to add our 9 to our quartile 3. This is what we're going to use to define our outliers if we have any outliers in our set. So once I'm done with this, I will go ahead and we will do a box and whiskers chart or graph to determine if we have any outliers, and these numbers that we're going to do are going to determine if we have one. So our quartile 17 plus 9, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in a different color. I'm going to use green. So we're going to do 17 plus 9, which we find out is 22. After this, we're going to grab 11. So we're going to grab 11 minus our 6. 11 minus our 22. So 17 plus 9 is going to equal 26. 26. So once we find our 26, we're going to subtract this number by our quartile number 1. So our quartile number 1 is 11 minus 26. So by that, we already know we're going to have a negative number because we're subtracting from a bigger number. So our answer is equals negative 15. So with that, we will see that these will be used for our box and whiskers chart. So for our box and whiskers chart, we're going to go ahead and go into this whiteboard. So we're going to go ahead and create a number line. So our number line is going to go like this. And then we're going to start with our quartiles on the chart. So we're going to do our quartile 1, which is 11. And then we're going to put our quartile 2, which was 13. 13 is fairly close to 11, so I'm going to put it right here. And then our quartile 3, 17, I'm going to put it right over here. So once we find our quartiles, we're going to put little lines up here, and then we're going to connect all of these 3. So there's that. And now using these numbers right here, we're going to place them also in our graph, and those are going to be known as our whiskers. So our whiskers is over here. I'm going to put it over here as negative 15. And then 26 is going to be all the way over here. 26, and then we're going to place a little dot, and we're going to connect it to our box. So I'm going to do our little dot, connect it to our box, and then we're going to go back to our set, which is over here, and we're going to go and see, are any numbers are in our set that are outside of negative 15 or 26? We can see that no number is bigger than 26 nor smaller than negative 15. So with that being said, that means we have no outliers. So I'm going to write that up here. No number is smaller than negative 15 nor bigger than 26. This means we have no outliers. So that is how we're going to do a presentation for a interquartile range with 2 medians. So now we're going to go ahead and do another little coverage, do a little bit more refresher on how we do one interquartile, so that way we can see the differences and the similarities between the 2. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this work. And then I'm going to do an example where we do have an outlier. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and create random numbers. I will do 2, 5, 13, 6, and 52. So that is going to be our set for this example. And then I did 5 numbers so we could see the differences between having 2 medians and just 1. So we're going to go ahead and start by rearranging and we are going to find our second quartile. So our second quartile, we already discussed, it's our median of the set. So then we can go ahead and see that 6 is our median. So 6 is our quartile number 2. Next, we're going to find our lower bound quartile and our upper bound quartile. So we can see in our lower bound, which is everything before our quartile number 2, 5 as a result is our quartile number 1, and our upper bound, which is after the second quartile, is 13. So now that we have all of those, we're going to find our minimum and our median of the set. So our minimum in this set is 2. Our quartile 1 is 5. Quartile 2 is 6. Our quartile 3 is 13. And our max is 52. So now we're going to go ahead and find our interquartile range. So to begin, we're going to subtract our quartile 3 by our quartile 1. So we can see our quartile 3 is 13. I'm going to write quartile 3 minus quartile 1. And that's 13 minus 5. 2, 8. Once we have this number, we're going to multiply our 8 by 1.5. So 1.5 times our IQR. This is our IQR. So we're going to do 1.5 times 8. This will equal to 12. After we find our 12, we're going to add this number by our quartile 3. So we're going to do quartile 3 plus 12. Quartile 3 is 13 plus 12. So now we see we have 25. 25. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do our quartile 1 minus 25. So our quartile 1 minus 25, which is 5 minus 25. And then after this, we see our answer is 20. So once we have our factors of our quartile 1, 2, 3, we have our defining numbers. We're now going to do our box and whiskers graph. So we're going to do a lined graph over here. Our lined graph, we're going to put our quartile 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to do quartile, we're going to do this in a different color. So we're going to do quartile 5, quartile 6, and quartile 13. After we define where our numbers lie, we're going to draw the lines, and then we're going to connect our lines, and that's going to be our box for our box and whiskers. So after we put in our quartiles, then we're going to go and put in 25 for our upper bound of our graph, and then we're going to do negative 20 for our lower bound of the graph. So then we're going to put over here negative 20, and then we're going to put 25. So we're going to do our dot and connect, dot and connect. So after we have our box and whiskers, we're going to go back and look into our set. in our set we can see 2, 5, 6, and 13 lie in between our two numbers right here. And we see that the number 52 does not lie in our number set. So when this happens, we're gonna put 52 in our graph. So I'm gonna put 52 over here. And then instead of doing a dot like we did right here, we're gonna put a little star. This star defines that we have an outlier. This means this set is not in our average numbers that we have here. So in the end, we have an outlier because 52 is above our IQR outcomes. So then this is our graph chart, our line graph, and this is our work that we worked on. So then that concludes our lesson for interquartile range, and I hope it was successful. Thank you.